what's the point of making a horror film if you can't even make it remotely scary? Come on. That's like making a comedy and not making you laugh. What's the point? Hey, what is up, you guys? Film Fan 0599 here again, and today we're going to review Winchester. So Winchester stars Jason Clarke and Helen Mirren, and what this film is basically about, it's about when Jason Clarke's character, he has to investigate the Winchester home, and, you know, Mrs. Winchester herself, because she, basically a lot of people think she's going crazy, because she thinks that there are ghosts haunting her home because of what her family did. They made the Winchester gun. And, you know, basically some weird stuff starts to happen, blah, 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 the typical stuff you would see in a horror film. So, what did I think of Winchester? Now, going into Winchester, I really didn't have much expectations going into it, because I really didn't know much about it going into it. I only knew two things. One, I knew that the Spirit Brothers was directing this film. And, you know, I enjoyed Daybreakers. I thought that was a pretty fun horror film. You know, a very fun vampire movie. I enjoyed that. But Predestination, however, that is like an incredible movie. That was on my top 10 best films of 2015. I love that movie to death. That's like one of the most underappreciated sci-fi films of this entire decade. A lot more people need to check out that movie. So if you haven't seen that movie, check out Predestination. You won't regret it. It's a phenomenal movie. So, you know, I was having some hope. Maybe I was like, you know, maybe they could do some good with this. The other thing I knew going into this was that the reviews were not that great for this movie. They were pretty bad. So I was like, oh boy. But, you know, of course, I could have a different opinion. I could enjoy it, you know. I was going in with an open mind, you know. I was hoping maybe I could enjoy this. Unfortunately, I didn't. Winchester's pretty bad. Winchester is a pretty bad horror film, honestly. I really didn't enjoy this movie. Winchester is pretty much every generic horror film you could possibly imagine. Honestly, I really didn't enjoy Winchester. Winchester is pretty bad. But I do have some positives with Winchester. And let's of course get into those first. So here we go. The positives are, first being, I thought the acting was, you know, good. It's passable. The acting is good, I'll say that. Jason Clarke, you know, I think he's a very underrated actor. I really enjoy him for the most part in movies I've seen him in. So, you know, he was good. I enjoyed him in the film. I thought he did a pretty solid job in the movie. Same goes with Helen Mirren. I thought she was pretty good. Sarah Snook, I believe that's her name. She was also in Predestination. She was good. I enjoyed her in the film for whatever screen time she was on for. You know, so yeah, I will say the acting is good. You know, it's passable. It's definitely, you know, definitely a lot better than, like, you would see in most, like, bad horror films, I'll say that. So, yeah. And lastly, I thought the directing wasn't too bad either, you know. The Spirit Brothers are really good directors, like I said, from the two movies that I've seen from them. And, you know, I thought they still, even though the movie's not good, I still thought they did a solid job directing it. It's pretty well shot. Editing, for the most part, isn't too bad. And, you know, the cinematography isn't that bad as well. So, yeah, I thought the movie was pretty, well directed, I will say. So, yeah. Now the negatives. So, I do have a lot of negatives with this film. First being the characters. You know, like I said, the acting wasn't bad, but the characters themselves are pretty bland and one-noted, honestly. Like, I didn't really care about them. I thought the development was kind of poor for them, to be honest with you. Like, I just really didn't care about them all that much as characters. Like, like, they weren't really that good in my opinion. I really didn't enjoy them, honestly. Like, they weren't awful, it's just that they were very bland and one-noted, like I said before. They just weren't that good in my opinion. I think they could have been way better, honestly. I could just care less for them whenever stuff went down or whatever. This movie, like I said in the intro, this movie is not scary whatsoever. It really isn't. What is the job of a horror film? To make you scared. And there was not one time that I felt frightened during this movie. All the scares are cheap jump scares. You know, like you would see in every, like, horror film like this. They are cheap, generic jump scares. The cheapest way to get a scare, in my opinion, in the movie is just a cheap jump scare, and it's terrible. It's like every scare in this movie is a jump scare. And, like, you could see it coming, too, like, oh my god, like, literally, there are points in this movie where you're like, yeah, jump scare's coming. It's coming. Oh, it happened. Yep, knew it. Like, it's just that predictable. Like, you know when it's coming, because every horror film does this. Well, every bad one, really. Yeah, well, you know, you get the gist. You get what I'm trying to say. Like, a lot of horror films play up like that, with jump scares in the films. And, you know, I just really thought they did a terrible job with it. Like, the movie is not remotely scary. There's never a time where I felt frightened, where I felt on the edge of my seat. I was just kind of like, no, jump scare. No, alright. No, not a jump scare. No, okay. Like, seriously, that's me the entire time, because it just wasn't that investing. And it wasn't that scary, like, at all. Literally nothing happens in the movie. To be quite frank with you, like, nothing happens in this film. Literally. I want to say not until, like, the final act of the movie, nothing big really happens. Like, I know you're trying to build upon something, and that's fine. Like, you can build upon something, but, like, it's just nothing. Like, it's basically just Jason Clarke walking around, sneaking around the house and whatever, and just taking interviews, and whenever something would happen, it was a jump scare. That's really, like, nothing really happens in this movie. Like, literally, you're sitting there bored out of your mind because literally nothing is happening. Like, nothing interesting or investing is happening in this movie. Like, seriously, it is boring. Like, literally nothing is happening. And, like I said before, this movie is predictable as hell. It really is. The movie is predictable as all hell. And repetitive, like I said. Very repetitive, because all the movie really is, for the most part, is Jason Clarke running around, sneaking out of the house, and jump scares. That's it. That's all it is. And it's very predictable, too. Like, you see things that are coming from a mile away in this movie, because it plays up on every generic horror film you've seen before. Like, seriously, it plays up on all the cliches you've seen in horror movies before, and whatever, but it's just, like, it's really predictable, honestly, like, what happened in this movie, to be honest with you. And oh my god, like, seriously, it's really, really predictable. The writing is not good. The writing is honestly pretty bad with this movie. I thought the writing wasn't really that great with this film. Sometimes the directing wouldn't be that great. The editing, at some points, like, it was mostly towards the third act of the movie. Like, what the heck? Especially with, like, these zoom-ins and whatever that they do at times in the movie. It's pretty weird, and it wasn't really that well handled. And, like I said before, this movie is boring. This movie's only an hour and 39 minutes, yet it felt like 2 hours. It moved at such a snail's pace. Like, seriously, if I'm not caring about the characters, the story, not feeling remotely scared, obviously I'm gonna be bored, and I was pretty bored throughout the entirety of this movie. Like, there was never a time I really felt invested into this movie, because it's bland, and it's terrible, and it plays up on every single horror film you've seen beforehand. So yeah, the movie moves at pretty much a slow pace, honestly, and you just want it to end. And lastly, the third act to this movie. What the hell was that? Seriously, the third act just goes bonkers. Seriously, the third act of this movie just goes complete insanity, but not in a good way. Like, you were just wondering what the hell is happening. Like, seriously, it just goes so off the wall, the third act with this movie, that you're just like, what is happening? Like, seriously, the third act of this movie is definitely one of the worst third acts I've seen all year. Like, seriously, what were they thinking with it? It was bad, I tell you. It was terrible. Honestly, like, the third act of this movie is really awful. Overall, Winchester is a pretty awful horror film. Like I said, it's pretty much every generic horror film you have seen before, and really does nothing new, honestly. It's just every generic horror film you've seen before, honestly, and I really didn't enjoy it. And it's disappointing coming from two really great directors. So it's time for my official grade on Winchester, and my official grade on Winchester is a D. Like I said, this movie is pretty bad, honestly. I really didn't enjoy this film. It is a really bad horror film. Like I said, it is every horror film. It plays on every trope that a horror film has already done before, and it's really terrible and really predictable, honestly. So, yeah, Winchester overall, not a good movie. Would not recommend. So, yeah, gets a D. So, if you have seen Winchester, what did you think of it? Leave in the comment section below. I'm FilmFan0599, and we will see you about later. Peace.